and our inaugural team. Everyone has been working so hard to put together so much in a short period of time. And I have new appreciation for some of the challenges associated with transition. But we have a great team, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to bring everyone together today. We've been working diligently the last couple months to make a series of announcements leading up to and through the inauguration about members of our cabinet and members of our senior executive team. This is going to be an iterative process, and so it's going to take some time to go through because we are going to be looking at every position that we can. And so our team has been engaging. We've had landing teams going through all the departments and major agencies. That process is still going on. As I've mentioned repeatedly, we'll be doing audits and performance reviews. And so obviously when we begin to get information on that, that's a time-consuming process. We'll let you know, but we're commencing that. Some of that becomes a little bit easier once I actually become governor, because then we're in a position to kind of move at the pace that we want. So, but we've been getting cooperation. We appreciate that, and so things are going very smoothly. With that in mind, significant announcements to make today. I expect that we'll make another set of announcements before Inauguration Day, and then some may come the day of or the day after in order to complete the cabinet and other positions. So with that in mind, I'm going to say that these picks, you're going to recognize a number of them, but they're outstanding in every single way. They're deeply experienced, they're smart, and they put service before self. And so I'm just thrilled that these folks have agreed to be such an important part of the team going forward, because they know there are great challenges ahead for West Virginia. Certainly there's been progress in some areas in recent years, but we know that there are a lot of big things ahead of us. We all want to make sure that we have the most family-friendly state in America. We want to make sure that opportunity abounds for the youth of our state, that educational attainment soars, that we are the freest, most economically viable state because we've cared deeply about the regulatory structure, and we want to be very attractive to businesses. We're going to be taking steps to make it easier for businesses and individuals to live, work, and play in West Virginia. We're also going to benefit from the relationship that West Virginia has with Donald J. Trump. Over the last month, I've had conversations with different cabinet members and with the president and others because they're excited about what we're doing here in West Virginia. And I anticipate along the way in the upcoming months, we're going to have a number of announcements of projects we'll work on with them, waivers from them. So it's an exciting time. West Virginia is on the cusp of important new transformation. When I mention some of the names today, I want to also emphasize that it is our intent, as I've indicated throughout the campaign, to repurpose and right-size government. I want to demand that every agency look for savings within. I know through the process so far, a lot of people sometimes look to just say we need more money. We're going to look for the efficiencies and the accountability we need because we have to transform how government works here in West Virginia and be in a place where we're generating more savings so we can put that money back into people's pockets, to have deeper tax cuts. That's important, and to be in a place where we can attract more private capital. There are no more big federal monies just flowing in the door the way they have been in recent years. This is different. So we have to fix the fundamentals, and we have to get it right. So I think you're going to see that there's going to be an emphasis on efficiency, on accountability, on growth by fixing the underlying challenges facing the state. And there are significant ones. I'm not satisfied with being 48, 49, 50 in the rankings, and we're not going to be. But we're going to do that by looking at the metrics involved so that people have the ability to say, wow, look at where they are today, look at where they're going to be tomorrow, look at where they're going to be in 1 year. So it's an exciting time, and I'm thrilled with the team that we're putting together, and I want to emphasize to everyone, if you're watching this now, submit your resume. We're going through every single resume. Go to wvprosperitygroup.com. We're over 700 resumes now, and I've been going through them personally. I'm going to keep doing that. If you have ideas that you think the state would benefit from, this is the time to weigh in and to let your voice be heard, because I want to know what's on your mind, because we want to bring so much goodness to the people of West Virginia. So with that, let me walk through some of the folks that are coming in to our administration. We're going to start out with Tom McCaffrey, who will be our Chief of Staff. Tom has deep experience in the private sector and in government, and also played a very senior role in the Trump administration as a principal deputy assistant at DOD. He helped run the DOD healthcare system. The guy has huge management chops, and I think he's a home run get for the state of West Virginia. I think I can't imagine having someone with that kind of experience. He's going to help the citizens of our state tremendously. Then there's another person who I think you're all going to know, a very good friend, someone who did an incredible job as the chief deputy in the AG's office, and his name is Douglas Buffington. And Doug has been by my side for the last 6 years, and he's been phenomenal, and he's deeply talented, he's hardworking, and he's going to be playing a role as a senior advisor within the administration, and I think he's going to continue to contribute. He has a servant's heart, and I'm deeply grateful for all of his past work and what he'll be able to achieve into the future. We have a gentleman by the name of Todd Johnston, who's a Deputy Chief of Staff, but he'll also be running what I intend to create as a new interagency council. And that council is going to be chaired by Todd, who is the Deputy Chief of Staff, but it's also going to involve the DEP. It's going to be involving the Transportation Department, members of EDA, and other designates from the governor, because I want to make sure that we're having the right kind of collaboration across the agencies so we can build on efficiencies and accountability. As I've mentioned before, we have to start fixing the challenges and problems that are in front of us, and we need to be cross-cutting in nature because of the relationship between economic development, DEP, transportation, and a lot of other areas within our state government system. So I think Todd's going to do a great job. He has terrific experience, not only in terms of being very involved, deeply engaged in various companies and associations, but also running committees on Capitol Hill. So very senior gentleman, and I'm thrilled with him and his decision to come in. Then we move on to the general counsel position. Having a good general counsel is critical. After all, I say that as the current attorney general of the state. And it's really important that you get the right person who's going to make sure that the administration is moving forward, and we're very mindful for all the laws that govern state government activities. So I'm very pleased to announce that Sean Whalen, who's currently the head of our tax division, very senior individual. He's a deputy attorney general. He's got a wealth of great experience, and anyone who knows Sean knows how bright and talented, gifted he really is. He's the guy you turn to when you want to get the legal question right. And so I couldn't be more proud of Sean for his willingness to step up and to transfer over to the governor's office. Then we go to Curtis Capehart. Curtis has played a critical role on so many issues. Curtis will be our director of policy. He's currently a deputy attorney general, and many of you may know Curtis because he's been the lead lawyer on a lot of really important issues. Our women's sports case, a lot of Second Amendment issues, our Unborn Child Protection Act, election law issues. Curtis has played a really critical role on tough issues, and he's done an amazing job at that. I'm thrilled that he's going to come in as a director of policy. And I love talking about Curtis, too, because he's one of those stories of West Virginians who came back. You know, he went to the University of Michigan Law School, very distinguished, but then he came back, and he lives in Putnam County with his wife, and they have twins. Wonderful, wonderful human being, great family. Then we move on to Marissa Finley, who's our Director of Operations. Marissa is incredibly organized. She has deep experience. She's going to be one of our traffic cops in the administration, and she helps keep the trains running on time. That's very important. I want to make sure everyone knows that we're going to have a very effective, a lean, and efficient government, and I want to thank Marissa for all of her incredible work. And she has really played a huge role in the transition. She's been a consultant to the transition, and I've had the chance to work with her the last few months, and I'm just thrilled, Marissa, that you're joining. Thank you very much. And then we also have John Finley, who is going to be the Director of Intergovernmental and Political Affairs, and John is probably the top political person outside here in the state. I think John is really smart and gifted and has played a number of different roles, not only ED of the party here in West Virginia, but also Virginia, but he played very senior roles with the Trump administration. In President Trump's victory, oversaw the whole direct mail operation, very gifted politically, very talented. You know, I feel good when we're keeping good talent here in West Virginia, and I'm excited. It's going to be folks, but we're going to put the people's interests first, so I'm glad John has joined. Then there's another name that you're going to be familiar with, and I thought it was important to bring him back. A governor's budget is one of the most important things that he can do to set the imprint in terms of the priorities for the state. And so I know that it's really important to have really smart, good, experienced people. I think you're going to see through some of the picks that we have a number of individuals who have deep expertise in budgeting and in revenue. And certainly Mike McCown, who is the Director of Budget, he's agreed to come back. He spent the last number of years over at the auditor's office, but has a lot of very rich experience. He's going to help us put together our budget, and he has joined the administration, and we're very excited about that. You guys know that we're going to have some challenges afoot in terms of some budgeting issues. This is not the same era that we've been operating under, and we know we may be subject to some financial challenges that the state hasn't seen in a long time. I want to make sure that we're armed and we have the best and brightest people looking at the issues. I think Mike is going to make a big difference. We're also pleased to announce that Crescent Gallagher will be serving as press secretary. For those who don't know Crescent was the Deputy State Director for Americans for Prosperity, and he has a rich array of press experience, not only at AFP, but working for Commissioner Leonhardt, and he's also just done so much in his career, which I think he's going to be helping as we're building out our press team. So I want to congratulate Crescent, and I know that you'll all look forward to working with him. Also on the senior staff side, I want to announce Katie Franklin, who's a Deputy General Counsel. Katie is a really smart, effective lawyer, and I've worked closely with her over the last 4 years, where she has been an Assistant Attorney General. Katie has a rich history of public service, not only working for the AG's office, but she also served the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office with distinction as an assistant prosecutor, and then she was the elected prosecutor for 4 years. We want to have a strong general counsel's office. I think we're off to a really good start with Sean and with Katie, so congratulations to Katie and her family for that incredible accomplishment. Then moving on for cabinet picks, we have some really outstanding people. I think that we're hitting home runs with all of these picks and that you're going to enjoy working with them. I'm going to start out with the Secretary of Revenue. Senator Eric Nelson has agreed to join our team as the Secretary. For those who have worked with him, Eric has deep financial experience. He served as the House Finance Committee Chair. He's one of the most knowledgeable people, if not the most knowledgeable, on financial issues and the budget. So I really am thrilled that he's coming on board because he's going to bring that expertise, that competence to bear that I think is going to make a difference. Once again, if revenue challenges are important for the state, and they are, you want someone who's really going to be on top of it and knows where all the levers are. I mean, there are 10 agencies within revenue. I think through his experience, that's just going to be an all-star pick. So congratulations to Eric Nelson for this really important position. Then I'm pleased to announce that Eric Householder the current majority leader of the House of Delegates, will be joining as the Secretary of Administration. That's a really important job, and Eric brings the experience set from serving as House Finance Chair and as House Majority Leader, and I think he is ready to go in and tackle big problems of the day. Many of you may know that due to some of the quirks, West Virginia government isn't always organized as cleanly as we'd like it to be, and I'm intending to change that over time. But one of the interesting things is administration is charged with PEIA, you have real estate, you have parking, you have a host of different issues, the pensions, and we want to make sure we get a really experienced person. That's a critical job. So Eric Householder, who's been my friend for a long time, has agreed to be the Secretary for Administration. Then we have someone who I can't say enough great things about. I know that one of the big issues that West Virginia has been facing have been a lot of how our kids have been treated over the years and the conditions that they're in, our foster care, yes, the TANF issues. These are big issues. We have to be family friendly in West Virginia, and we want to roll our sleeves up, and we want to address that foster care problem, CPS, and we want to make sure that we're managing our human services department with the level of expertise that's required. So I'm very pleased to report that we will be naming Alex Mayer as our Secretary of Human Services, and Alex comes from South Dakota, where he is right now serving, and he's been running a number of the programs in this exact area, has a phenomenal reputation. Also, he's a Ranger. He brings deep military experience to bear, and I love that commitment to service. So I've really enjoyed getting to know Alex, and based on reputation and what I've learned so far, he's going to be outstanding. And I want to show the emphasis, how much we care about our kids and how important it is that we roll our sleeves up and we fix these problems that have been seemingly intractable for a long period of time. So Alex is just going to be great, and he'll be joining our team. We are going to also retain for our Department of Environmental Protection the current secretary there, Harold Warwick. I've had many conversations with Harold over the years, and I think he has a really rich understanding of all the issues within DEP, and I'm looking forward to working with him. When I've talked to him in recent weeks and months, he's talked about how he can help bring more efficiencies to bear out of DEP, because he knows that the time has passed where people are coming to pass the hat for more money to come in. We're going to have to know that we have a budget shortfall that's coming, and we're going to have to do more with less. I think we can do that, and Secretary Ward has demonstrated that to me, and I'm really pleased that he has agreed to stay in our administration. Then we are also announcing our commissioner of the Bureau of Senior Services, the Honorable Diana Graves. Many people may know Diana from her tenure in the House, and she's also been helping tremendously during the transition period. She is a very bright woman. She went to Stanford. She's well respected across the aisle for her policy chops, and so I think she's going to be able to do a great job, because our seniors are so precious to the state of West Virginia. They've served, they've contributed so much to the state, and I want to send a message that seniors are going to be prioritized in my administration, and I'm thrilled that Diana is willing to serve as the commissioner. Now, there are a number of other cabinet posts that with people that we've been talking to, and some names that we're getting close to being able to submit over the course of the next week. I can mention to you that I've tried to keep Senate President-elect Randy Smith updated with what's going on, because of the cabinet positions are subject to advice and consent with the Senate. So I'm really enjoying the working relationship with Senator Smith. I think he's going to do a terrific job, and certainly been talking with the Speaker as well. So I anticipate a good, close working relationship. We have a lot of work to do in the upcoming months, but it's a thrilling time in West Virginia, and I'm ready to make sure that everyone knows that our team is second to none. That's how we did really well in the AG's office, and I think you'll see with some of the additional picks that will be coming out over the next week and 2 weeks that you'll see we're putting an all-star team together. So wanted to get everyone together for that. I know it's a lot to digest. We're talking 15 people, but you know, we don't like to just pussyfoot around. We want to jump in with a lot of big announcements, and this is a pretty strong down payment on our team. So thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. Stephen.
Let me start off with, obviously you mentioned other cabinet appointments will be made, obviously.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the priority, particularly for Diana Graves, with Commissioner, Bureau of Senior Services.
Yeah.
So these first cabinet picks,
Yeah.
do they reflect kind of where you see your initial priorities as far as getting people on the ground immediately into those appointed positions to start working?
I think certainly everyone here reflects an important goal of the administration, that we want to make sure that the people coming on board are going to care about repurposing government and right-sizing government. And I think every person in the cabinet and the governor's office cares deeply about this. You could see that we have a number of picks in the energy arena, our cabinet official, our deputy chief of staff who's running that cross-cutting team. That remains very, very important. There's a lot of emphasis on revenue. We have two former finance. We have some budgeting challenges ahead. That's not a secret to anyone. So we're going to have a team in place ready to deal with that. I think with Eric Nelson and having Householder and having Doug Buffington and having Sean Whalen, wow, and having McCown, that's a team that's ready on day one to attack that. And that's a big issue. So certainly I feel very good about this and the messages that we're trying to send. I want to make sure that we're emphasizing that we have a great high-quality team that's going to roll their sleeves up and get big things done to repurpose and to right-size government, and that's what this represents. We're going to have a great time in West Virginia growing our economy, but we have to level with people about where we are right now. And one thing I think you should expect is that once I get inaugurated, as we're getting information back from each of the agencies, I want to sit down with all of you and tell you what I've found, right? And let you know, because I want you to come along and see this is where we are in day one, and then the public should know this is where we are after 100 days, after 6 months, after a year.
You're not shy in some of these selections of looking outside the state.
I'm not.
You know, and so is that risky? Is it? What is your thought of doing that? Getting someone from the outside.
Look, think of this as building a national championship football program. You get the best available talent wherever they may be. And that's what we're going to do. We're always doing that. You know, in the AG's office, I think you know that we brought in a couple ringers who I think most people would say, heck, they were some of the best lawyers that West Virginia ever had. And I think the same is applying here. The level of expertise that all these individuals are bringing to bear is phenomenal. So I think when you're looking at, I think we have 3 people coming in from out of state of the first 15 that we're announcing. Look, I mean, I'm going to take talent wherever it comes. I want to send a message across the country. If you're the best at your position, you have a place in West Virginia. We need to be the best. We need to move up from 49 and 50. And the way we put the best championship team on the field is we look across the whole country. That's what we're doing. You know, we're working with headhunters and other people to find top talent. And certainly there's a lot of talent in West Virginia, and we're meeting with a lot of people here. And you're seeing that, the reflection. I think it's, 80% coming from within the state. But, you know, I think anyone who wants a successful football program can feel the same way about state government. Best available talent will be starting.
One of those people is Alex Mayer from South Dakota. How important is it for changes to be made as a secretary with Human Services, and what specifically do you hope to maybe change?
Well, a couple things. First, I want to applaud everyone who's come before. Public service is so critical, and I want to thank the people of the Justice Administration who have served, and they've had some very difficult challenges, and so but we are looking ahead. This is an important division. I think a lot of people look at it as one of the toughest departments to manage, right? Because of the nature of the problems, especially because a lot of states have suffered problems with foster care and CPS. So I wanted to send a message that we have someone who's been very successful in this area, who knows foster care issues, who knows the importance of treating families with great respect and knows these programs. This is an important area. And so I think it's an important area of emphasis because historically there have been a lot of challenges in this area, and I want to get someone I feel really good about. And once again, I thank everyone for the service that they provided because, as you know, for the longest time, a lot of these issues were housed within one entity, and that's broken now into three. That's been a really tough challenge for those existing cabinet officials. I will tell you that we may be looking to make some different decisions in terms of how various cabinet agencies come together. And I'm trying to think through a team that not only works for the specific cabinet positions now, but might work as we're doing broader reorganization of state government. We are not going to have the same number of departments that we have now, and we're also going to be looking closely at the massive number of commissions that we have in place. We're going to make changes. We need to have more accountability, more freedom, and we need to save money that can then be invested back into the people to have a more competitive tax code, and then also to make sure that we're going to be able to afford the infrastructure and the needs that our citizens face.
A little bit going into your inauguration.
Yeah.
We're just a few weeks away from that, less than that actually. I'm sure that now that you've picked some members of your executive team, you guys are kind of planning how to go about that.
Yeah.
I do want to mark the fact that over the last few days we've seen some violence nationally going into the new year.
Yeah.
You know, it's been terrible. People's lives have been lost, and you're going into your inauguration. How are you and your team maybe planning to go about that safely? Is there any safety things that you can remark on, just what we've seen as a whole nationally, even right here in the Capitol as well?
You know, it's a great question, and thank you for asking. And first of all, my heart goes out to all the families who were victimized down in New Orleans. And I know that my friend Jeff Landry, the governor of Louisiana, is going through an important challenge right now. But he's up to the task. He's terrific. Our team is talking with the various people here in West Virginia to make sure that we're going to have a safe and smooth transition. So we've been in touch with Homeland Security and the state police and other people as well. And also I would have you note, as you're looking at the inaugural, there are going to be a lot of components where different people will be involved. The National Guard gets involved. They have a wonderful band and other things. So we are working closely with them because we take that very seriously. Most important, to be honest, I worry less for me, and I want to make sure that the law enforcement officers and the state police and some of the folks that protect the governor, that they're afforded the best of protection, that they have the updated security at the mansion and in other places. And we're going to make sure that that gets done, because I'm not going to put law enforcement at risk. I want to make sure that we're doing the best we can to protect people and make sure that everyone knows they're going to a safe environment. But I have confidence of that. But I also know that there are a lot of sick people out there, and there are terrorists out there that are doing things that we have to have no tolerance for, and that's certainly going to be the approach we have in West Virginia.
Hey, sir, just on that note, I know you talked about law enforcement just now. I know you talked about your self-protection for there.
Yeah.
People are going to be lining the parade route to see you inaugurated. People are going to be coming here to the Capitol grounds to watch you be inaugurated, spectators and things like that.
Sure.
What's being done to protect those people, and is it safe for them to come and participate in those activities?
Yeah, so it is going to be a safe environment. I know that we're working with law enforcement to try to make that happen, and we're going to do everything possible within our power to make sure that people feel comfortable and safe on Inauguration Day. So that involves a lot are put in place. So I want people to feel that they can come to the inauguration. I want people to come to the concert, a celebration of West Virginia's future. I want people to see the fireworks coming. And we want to send that message that we have a lot of really talented people in law enforcement, in our state police. They work tirelessly. And I know that as our team and I work with them, they're going to do everything within their power to try to make sure that this transition of power occurs the right way. So I think we need to deplore, we need to criticize what's happened down in Louisiana with the terrorists and these people that are absolutely unhinged. But you know, it's going to be our goal always to make sure we protect our citizenry. That's always job one as a governor.
With With that in mind, do you plan on announcing your pick for Homeland Security anytime soon?
We're having discussions, but I want to make sure that everything is smoothly handled through the inauguration. So I want to make sure that I'm putting the safety first. And so there are a lot of people that are working very hard, and I know sometimes transitions can be disruptive to people. So we'll be prepared to announce that when we're ready to announce that, but obviously I know that's an incredibly important pick.
So there will be announcements before and after inauguration?
So there are going to be announcements, not saying for specific positions when they're going to be announced, but certainly we're going to have more announcements leading up to the inauguration and afterwards. And we're just trying to make the right decisions for each person, and we're going to do this correctly. I'm not going to put a specific date in place and say everything has to be done by X date. There might be a person or two who gets to start a little bit later because of their current job and the transition, and I want to be amenable to that. Jeff.
You've said it several times today about the budget. You don't want to get behind that. You want to get out in front of it.
That's right.
Obviously. How, from what you've learned so far since your last news conference here, how bad might things be budget-wise unless there are some cuts?
I will say this, that my intent is to be in a position to brief the press, maybe at a meeting like this, where you can ask questions of me, and I'll try to get ready for those tough questions you're going to provide to me the first week when I'm inaugurated. I want to thank the Justice Administration because they're sharing a lot of information back and forth, so that's terrific. I think you saw that when we picked members of the team, that we're picking people with deep expertise in these areas because we do have some fiscal challenges coming up. I'm not ready to put a dollar figure on it today, but I know that the era that we've been into, I mean, I know one of the challenges we have to find money to pay for the tax cuts, right, that was passed. And I'm prepared to do that. I'm eager to have deep tax cuts. I'm a believer when you have tax cuts, you have to pay for them, right? So that hasn't really been done yet. Well, we're going to take the time. We're going to make sure that that happens, and we'll do that. But I think you could expect that we'll be talking about the state of affairs financially that week after I get inaugurated. But obviously, this is going to be different. There are some financial challenges, and there needs to be some thought, not just in terms of words like belt tightening, but we have to be able to, as a state, do more with less money. One of the things I've challenged our cabinet officials, everyone who comes in, I talk about how we need to develop faster on technology. I want our state to be thought of as a real leader in terms of technology deployment, not only so we can attract more jobs in terms of the merger between energy and technology, the data centers, crypto, and superintelligence, but because I think that it could allow for broader savings for the taxpayers, then that allows more money to be poured back into investments in our families, our infrastructure, and certainly more money, more take-home pay for the families of 4 and 6 that are in the Mountain States. So I think that we'll be talking about that a lot more post-inauguration.
You use the term woke on occasion.
Yeah.
This is a pretty conservative state, predominantly. What would you define as woke being? Because I know that is a concern for some that don't want to see some of these policies encroach in the state, but how would you define that?
Look, I think a lot of people have used the word woke to mean different things because some on the left have talked about it in terms of advancing terms like diversity, equity, and inclusion. When I hear some of those words, I think to myself, well, I'm not supportive of quotas. I think of woke as to almost having guaranteed outcomes for specific classes of people based upon the class that they belong to, and that there's predetermined political outcomes for them. I'm a believer that West Virginia is going to be the most free, dynamic state. I am going to eliminate all vestiges of DEI out of state government immediately. And I'm going to be really clear about that. That's important. I want every individual to be treated the same way. We're all created equal under the eyes of God. And that means there's no winners and losers in terms of specific groups that deserve some different form of justice or some preferential rules or some policies because, it's morally superior. No, we want to do this and treat people with the dignity that they're afforded by our Creator and treat them the same under the law. That's how I view our administration, and that's why I've been so aggressive to stomp out woke and to make sure that a lot of the politically correct agenda that we saw from the left over the years has no place in West Virginia.
Just to circle back to the budgetary briefing, do you anticipate that your audit will be done then too?
No. We're just getting away on a number of these pieces. What we've been able to do is that we have been doing landing teams, so we're doing close reviews, and we're getting that information, and that's going to then really arm the more formal auditing and the performance reviews. So that will be starting soon, but you first have to get a lot of the collection, the information, and it's going to be a little bit easier once I'm physically within.
Do you have an estimated time for that, or a point person?
No, we're obviously going to be making the announcements as they come up, and it's obviously a priority for me to make sure that the public knows everything that currently exists within these that way the public can have a sense, this is where we are in day one, right? And you can see the good, the bad, the ugly, an old Clint Eastwood movie, and that's what I want. So, and then we'll be talking through releasing our various proposals, and we'll let you know. Obviously, we're going to have a specific focus on certain agencies up front, right? It takes time and effort, and we have to work. Not much of a transition process that's kind of envisioned under the statute. I think you guys know that. So it creates a lot of other challenges. I want to thank all because they're certainly stepping up and doing a lot of outstanding work.
You mentioned over 700 resumes so far coming in. How much of the work that you've done so far has been to go out and find people and recruit them, whether in-state or out-of-state, and how much of it has just come at you instead?
I'd say it's a combination. Certainly, we're looking at every resume, and I can't tell you today that I've seen the most recent of the last. I had looked through and at least glanced at all of them, and I can tell you that I have a binder, and I try to, every time I have a few minutes, I try to go through it, and I want to make sure not only that every resume is reviewed, but that every idea is reviewed, and so that's important. But I do think when you're trying to put the best team in America on the field, you hire people who can help. So we have headhunters. We have people that are out there and working hard to try to identify good people with the right collection of experiences. So it's a combination of people submit resumes, word of mouth. I once again would ask everyone watching right now, if you know of people that want to serve in a dynamic administration that I think is going to be precedent setting nationally, in a organization that is going to repurpose state government and right size in a way that you will not see anywhere across the country, that is going to be known as a place where freedom reigns, where businesses are going to come through with less regulatory burdens than any other place, where our kids are going to be highly educated, where we're going to be on top of partnerships with the Trump administration to be first in line prime movers. Come to West Virginia.
What have some of your meetings been like with the legislative leadership? Are you all sort of outlining priorities going forward?
Absolutely. So we've been having conversations. So I mentioned I've talked with the Speaker, I've talked with the Senate President, and obviously a number of members of the House and the Senate. And we're having good discussions. I think that the founders were very wise to provide a new governor with that extra month when he comes in to be able to work with the legislature to develop an agenda. I think that was a brilliant part of the structure, and so we're going to take full advantage of that. So, I've been talking with them about some of the picks and about some of the challenges broadly, but certainly the goal remains we're looking to work closely with them to try to create as much of a unified agenda as we can. And based on the conversations, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity to do that.
What do you think some of the most important issues are going into the legislative session? I know you'll be officially governor when that starts. I know you said you've been discussing with legislators, but what do you think is the most important?
Well, I think we've talked a lot about it over the last few years, that it's important that West Virginia take steps to get out in front economically, and we need to better compete with other states that we touch. So I've talked about it in the form of the backyard brawl. I'll reiterate it again on day one. We'll be making very clear that there's a more formal review. Obviously, there's a lot of information out there about the existing tax rates, but I want to make this a little bit more formal so that I can come to you and I can sit down and we can talk about the various taxes, talk about the regulations, the workforce rules, the licensing rules, and say this is where we are today, as opposed to, yeah, you can find it in 8 different books, but I want to present it to you so that you can actually look at it and evaluate it and know the reason why we succeed is going to be dependent upon the changes we make there. So, for instance, if we want to compete better with Pennsylvania and Ohio and our neighboring states, we're going to have to look at some of the regulations and taxes that have caused certain people to choose those other states over West Virginia. The legislative session will look at a number of those issues, but obviously I've also talked about the importance of beginning to find savings and to repurpose government so that we can pay for the existing tax cuts, so that we can also pay for additional tax cuts, and we can have the infrastructure that we need. One of the things that I'm fond of saying is that I think Governor Justice on the roads to prosperity, that was sorely needed, and there were some really positive things that came from that, but obviously a lot of that money's been spent, and so now we have to look and say, well, where's the next tranche? How are we going to do that and leverage the right way? And so these are all things that we'll be talking about with the legislature to make sure that we're putting ourselves in a position to compete and to win in the economic arena, and we're going to do it while we maintain those West Virginia conservative values that we care about.
We talked a lot today about all these people.
Yeah.
What do you see as your most important thing and role that you can bring to the state of West Virginia as governor?
I think that West Virginia is the most amazing place on the face of the earth, and I feel so honored to have the opportunity to serve as the state's next governor. I want to make sure that this isn't just a line, that we're the shining state in the mountains, that we're taking advantage of all the opportunities to grow and to realize our potential. And that means being willing to make some of the tougher decisions that haven't been made in the past, to make sure that we're putting our families and our people first, to build on the successes that have come right now, but to then make sure that we're known as that free state, that shining state in the mountains, that we're better economically than a lot of the states around us. It's not just saying where we are, it's what's our specific metrics in terms of our standard of living, our educational attainment, our public health statistics. I want to move the needle, and I want to make sure that we're truly achieving very, very big things. And I also want to let people know, if you're thinking of living, working, and playing in West Virginia, you're going to have the most dynamic state. And every problem isn't resolved yet, and I'm not going to say that to all the prospective people, but we're coming. We're coming because we're going to be much more aggressive than what people have seen. And I think that leads to really positive outcomes. And that's a big part of my goal, to let people know about all the incredible goodness of West Virginia, but also to let people know about how we're going to tackle the challenges and overcome them. I think that's really critical. Any more questions that people have? Do you guys like this format? Is it a good format?
Some of those early decisions may not be popular when it comes to budgeting.
Look, popularity has never been something that's been the focus. The focus is on accomplishing as much good for the people of West Virginia as possible. And I want to make sure that people know that this governor is fighting for them every single day. And we're willing to make the decisions that are going to position West Virginia to rise in those economic rankings and be thought of as the shining state in the mountains. That's our goal. We're not going to deviate from that, and I think we can make that happen. That's the value of the team that we're bringing to bear. This is a great team, and we're not done yet. We have other people we're talking to, that are going to be wonderful. I'm excited about it, but sometimes you have to go through a process, and people are in existing jobs, but this is going to be a great team. And it's for Team West Virginia. It's not for Patrick Morrisey. It's for the team approach of what we can do for our citizens. And that's why I wanted to make these announcements to say we're putting the best team on the field.
Mr. Governor-elect, you asked if we like this format, and of course you heard several of us say yes. And we've been accustomed to one format for the last several years. This, of course, is another format. What can you tell us as press? What can you tell the public? What should we expect going forward as the relationship between us?
I try to be pretty open and transparent. If there's anyone in the room who's been watching over the last 12 years, I think I'm a fairly accessible Attorney General, right? I think at least you can acknowledge that, and I think I'm going to be a pretty accessible governor. And I don't predict what the form of every media dissemination will be, but I can say that I'm very happy to talk to people and let people know what's going on. And I recognize that, there may be different opinions about, whether people agree with me or disagree with me in the media. And I'm not afraid to call people out when I disagree with them. But look, there's a reason why freedom of the press is part of the Constitution. It's part of the First Amendment. I care deeply about those things. I care about the petitions and the right to assemble and speech and press and religious freedom. Those are the core pieces of what we need to always remind ourselves about. So you're all part of that. And I think we need to always, no one is bigger than the state. No one is bigger than any of the people in it. I'm no better than any of the other people in the state of West Virginia. I serve the people of West Virginia humbly, and that's how we're going to handle things. Any other questions?
Education.
Yeah.
Is there anything that can change that you see within quickly, not necessarily a timeline, but that can be done quickly to make true changes in education and where West Virginia is always, you talk about it, ranking low?
Yeah, so one of the things we're going to try to do is be very aggressive in developing metrics that we can see and that hopefully the public can see kind of county by county. I want that transparency. And one thing I've talked about is when you're looking at our Hope Scholarship Program, that gets a lot of attention all the time. Well, one of the goals that I've had is to sit down with a lot of the people involved in that program and the principals and the teachers and look at some of the metrics that might be coming out of those schools as well. And the schools that are doing really well, how we might be able to better replicate that in other areas. So we're looking at that not only from a Hope Scholarship perspective, but also with respect to our public schools as well. So that's part of the process, right, as we go through. Look, we also know that our current education system, West Virginia is kind of an anomaly in terms of how it handles a lot of the education piece that, it basically it's set in the Constitution. It's not subject to the same rules and oversight as to other executive branch programs. That's something we should take a look at. I know that folks looked at it a few years ago, but I think we need to look at that because there does need to be accountability across the board through our education system. And I want to make sure that our kids and our parents are getting the right attention they deserve. Any other questions? One other item, just a little plug for the inauguration. We're going to have great music. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I think you're going to recognize some of the bands that we have. And obviously, we have a parade. It's up. I've been reading the 10-day ahead forecast, and it's hard to know. I look around the room and I see some of the TV stations. So maybe as the next governor, I can ask you for your best guess as to what the weather will be, and I'll hold you accountable for it. But that would be great. We want people to come out, but I know it may be a little bit cold, but we want people to have a wonderful time. This is a celebration of West Virginia, and this is important that people recognize the critical nature of peaceful transfer of power. And I'm hopeful we're going to have a number of the former governors in attendance and a lot of other people. I know we're certainly reaching out, and I've invited some of them, and I'm hopeful that they're going to come, which is great. We want to make sure this is a celebration about our state. Guys, thank you very much. Appreciate it.